Thank you, Jim, for that introduction, and thank you to each and every one of you out there today. It is both my pleasure and my honor to be here sharing with you this morning. I would ask that you all please take a close look at this face. This is the face of a recent college graduate. This is the face of a recent college graduate who earned both of his degrees with the highest academic honors available. This is the face of a kind man, an honest man, a trustworthy man, a man of his word. Heck, this just might be the face of a man who could sit you down at your own kitchen table and sell you a term life insurance policy. Please take a close look at this face. Now look at this face. This is the face of a man who on March 20th, 1992, walked into the First Tier National Bank, pointed a semi-automatic pistol at the teller's face, and demanded all the 20s, 50s, and 100s. This would be the first of 5 armed bank robberies I would commit over a 6-month crime spree when I was 28 years old. Please take a look at this face. Both these faces are mine. The transformation between the two, the transformation from a suicidal, drug-induced bank robber to what you see standing before you today, took place gradually over 7.5 years within the confines of a federal prison. The awakening. What I quote called the awakening. The time in my life that I decided I had to get off this train I had been riding. The time in my life where I decided there's no way I could continue to live the way I had been living. This, quote, awakening took place about 6 months into my incarceration, and it was fueled by 3 things. The first thing was the dead time in prison. It literally hangs in the air. I would sit in the common areas, and I would watch guys play cards, play dominoes, and watch TV for 12, 14, 16 hours a day, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Some of these guys doing this for 5, 10, 15, 20 years at a time. And I would look at this and I would think to myself, is this how these guys are going to make a living when they get out of here? I couldn't fathom spending my time that way. And the second thing that fueled this awakening was, of course, my son. I discovered not only was it possible, but that I had the responsibility to influence my far-off son in a positive way. And the third thing that fueled this awakening is something my dad used to say to me all the time when I was a kid, something I used to lean, or that I lost track of during my teens and early 20s, but something I came to lean on and believe in and rely on during those years of incarceration. And what my dad used to say is this: anything in this life which is worthwhile, which is really, really worthwhile, is never easy. And you see, I had always taken the easy road. The drug use, the lying, the cheating, the stealing, anybody can do those things. It doesn't take a special individual, a special man, woman, boy, girl to do those kind of things. Anybody can do those things. The more difficult road is the road of self-respect, of believing in yourself, of oftentimes standing over here when it seems like you're all alone and everybody else is going a different direction or doing something else, but knowing in your head and in your heart what you're doing is the right thing. That's oftentimes the more difficult road. But that's the road of a bright future. That's the road of success. That's the road of prosperity. And the end result of that association's help was me walking out those gates of prison with 2 college degrees, both earned with a 4.0 GPA and placement on the Deans and President's list. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, I appreciate that. Thank you. Things happen for a reason. Things happen for a reason. And what I want to share with you right now is 3 things that I learned over those 7.5 years of incarceration. 3 central truths that I know right here in my heart to be the most important things in my life, and in my humble opinion, should be the most important things in the life of all of you sitting out there today. And the first thing is time. Time is our most valuable commodity, bar none. It is our most valuable commodity, yet is the commodity that we're often most wasteful with. You cannot regenerate it, you cannot recycle it, you cannot reuse it. Once it's gone, it's gone. We have to look at how we're using our time, people. You do not realize the value of time until you sit in a federal institution for 7.5 years. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have time watching TV, time going to the movies, time walking your dog, time doing a hobby. It's all about balance in your life, but you need to make sure you have something in place that is helping you utilize your time most effectively. I personally have short and long-term goals for myself, and throughout the day, I just by habit ask myself, Troy, is what you're doing right now, this very minute, getting you closer to any of those goals? And if it's not, I change what I'm doing. Time is our most valuable commodity. The second thing I learned over those 7.5 years, family and loved ones, there is nothing more important. Again, there is nothing more important than your family and your loved ones. And I am in particular talking about the people in our everyday lives that we take for granted, the people that we peck on the cheek as we walk in the door at the end of the day and then plop our butts down on the couch. They get the same peck on the cheek on the way out the door. The people we assume are always going to be there, they're not always going to be there. And you do not realize and recognize how important these people are until they're taken away from you, as mine were taken away from me. Let these people know how important they are to you. Let them know you love them. And let them know often. Do not have regrets later. Regrets later are mistakes made today. It is not important what we have in our life, but who. And we need to ask ourselves, are we spending the least time with what's most important? We all need to ask ourselves that. And the third thing that I learned over those 7.5 years of incarceration is this. It is not important how we come to the events in our life. What is important is how we deal with those events. Once I landed in prison, it did not matter how I got to prison. I could not change that. We can look at our past, we can learn from it, we can reflect on it, but we are never to dwell on it. You cannot change that. All you can change is from right now forward. It does not matter how you come to the events. It does not matter what your past is. It does not matter what the color of your skin, what your background, how you grew up. What matters is what you do from today forward. And that's the very reason I told you the story about my scholarship and my schooling. I'm not standing up here to brag when I tell you that story. I'm standing up here telling you that story to let you know that out here in the free world you can accomplish anything you want to accomplish. If I could accomplish that within the confines of a federal prison, you can accomplish anything you want out here in the free world. And just to help drive home that point of it's not important how you come to the events in your life, but how you deal with them, I want to tell you a little story. The story's out of Australia. It's the story of two brothers who come from the very same event and have such totally different endings. Again, the story's out of Australia. It's about two brothers that are caught stealing sheep. In Australia, the penalty for this is fierce. Each brother has the initials ST branded across his forehead, forever labeling him sheep thief. For one brother, the humiliation is overwhelming. He travels from town to town, becoming crafty and cruel, yet he can never escape the inner torment and the inner shame, and after several years, he dies under much turmoil and torment and under suspicious circumstances. For the second brother, he decides he either has to face this crisis or be destroyed by it. He makes a conscious decision to earn back his self-respect. He starts each day asking himself, what can I do just today to earn back my self-respect? As years unfold, people forget his story, and it becomes faded print on old newspaper. They begin to trust him again. He becomes a leader of the community, a champion of those who struggle, and an example of courage to the young. Many years later, a visitor comes to town, and he's surprised when he sees a little old man shuffling by a storefront with the initials ST branded on his forehead. So he asks the clerk, what's that about? Who's that old guy? The clerk said, there used to be a rumor about how he got those scars. But for the life of me, I can't remember what it was. He used to be the mayor here. I think it has to do with him being a saint. It does not matter how you come to the events in your life. What's important is how you deal with them. And I want to close today with my favorite quote in the world. My absolute favorite quote in the world is by Martin Luther King Jr., and it's not free at last, thank God Almighty, I'm free at last. That's my second favorite. My favorite quote in the whole world by Martin Luther King Jr. is this: I may not be the man I want to be. I may not be the man I ought to be. I may not be the man I could be. And I may not be the man I can be. But thank goodness I'm not the man I once was. Thank you. Thank you very much.